All right, welcome to Tough Table Light, episode one. We wanted to change things up with the Tough Table, revive things, and go with this new format for the time being. Uh, First ever, and our guest today is Lee Kemp from the UKDFBA. You seem to jump into a lot of the first time things that I do. This CCN, I don't know how I sucker you into this stuff, but before we get into the topic one, which is going to be the idea of classic physique and natural bodybuilding, and topic two, which is more of the crossovers and hybrid class athletes. Um, Take a minute, tell the audience who you are. I'm sure probably of them already know who you are, but just a little rundown about you, yourself, your organization.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Ryan. It's great to be on the first episode. It was great to be involved in the first CCN as well. And I guess I must just believe in what you're doing and think it's all a good idea. So I'm happy to be involved and I'm happy to support in any way that I can. Those listeners that know me will be aware that I'm the founder and president of the UKDFBA. We've been running here in the UK for 10 years now. We're a governing body for the sport, for drug-free bodybuilding. We've grown exponentially in the 10 years that we've been around. A lot's changed over those 10 years, but we still enjoy what we're doing. Everybody involved in the organisation does so completely on a volunteer basis. We're a non-profit organisation, and we've focused over the last 10 years in sinking all of the profits that the organisation generates into sponsoring athletes to compete internationally in various contests. And it's kind of a unique formula that not everybody else is following. And I think people can, in all honesty, see that the fact that we're willing to do that and do it for the love of the sport and put the love and the passion into it, to do it for free and to give all the money back to the athletes is probably our calling card, probably the reason that people trust us and know that we're doing the right thing by them. So yeah, we've got another busy season planned. Memberships and entries coming in at a huge rate, and we're looking forward to our 11th season this year, which is, fingers crossed, gonna be pretty much back to normal after the year we've just had.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I mean, your formula definitely works. I mean, I didn't always know of you. I think, funny story, the way I did learn of you was I inadvertently broke I guess, an international affiliate rule. I wasn't aware of it, had no idea what was going on. And then I got word and I was like, who is this guy? Who's didn't we legit fight a war over things like this? But after that, I got to know you, and then we talked a lot. I saw you at the shows. I saw the level of athletes that you brought to the shows. It was really impressive. So your formula definitely works. I know there's definitely been some changes recently in the mix for you, but I know that you'll make everything work and everything will get better and better and improve each year. So definitely believe in your system and your formula. So, and plus what's it, 11 years now, you're saying?
It's our 11th year this year. Yeah.
11 years going strong. Made it through the pandemic. It says a lot. So, all right, you ready for topic one here?
Absolutely, can't wait. I've been looking forward to being a Tough Table guest for a long time.
Good. I'm gonna take. I was initially full con on this, like against it, the idea of classic physique and natural bodybuilding. I think I still weigh to the side of still not being there yet, but I do see a lot of pros with it. Initially, for me, I felt that, classic physique was obviously made in, and the NPC, the untested, organizations. And to me and to others, it seemed like it was the great physiques that look like bodybuilders, but they're just not the mutants, whether it's genetics or, they don't want to push the limit or in terms of the, the PED usage. And it still was very, very, eye appealing. The aesthetics were there. It was like the classic style bodybuilding. So it made sense that there was this bridge, because not everyone wants to do men's physique and not everyone's 300 pounds, shredded. So, and I know you got that, what's that, the 212 class, but this was something different, and it seemed like it belonged there. When you turn into natural bodybuilding, at least from my experience, you have your bodybuilders, you have your men's physique, but none of the bodybuilders are like so mutinish that there needs to be this other thing with, it's like bodybuilders with not, that aren't freakishly big. In the natural world, that's just someone who doesn't have a lot of muscle, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's how I initially looked at it. I mean, what are your
it's a difficult one for me. I mean, from the get-go, I was in the no need for this, doesn't belong in natural bodybuilding camp. I mean, if you throw the net wider than that and look at, you have the NPC over in the States, we have the IFBB over here, or the connotations of the IFBB, because there was some big split up here in Europe. And the classic bodybuilding, as it originally was, which has now sort of morphed into classic physique, was started because, like you say, some of the open class bodybuilders were mutants. And I always kind of felt that instead of addressing the problem by introducing another class, they should have addressed the problem by placing the mutants high, because they don't look so good anyway to an aesthetically accustomed eye. That, some of these guys don't look good. Can't take away the dedication they're putting in.
No, of course not. No. But the criteria kind of pushed them there, like,
yeah, and it got a little bit out of hand. Like, you have in the NPC, in the open shows, in the Olympia now, the figure competitors in that show are bigger than the women winning the bodybuilding Olympia 10 years ago. And and then they say there's no place for women's bodybuilding anymore. Well, there is. They've just called it something else.
Yeah.
The girls are big and muscular. When it comes to the drug tested side of the sport, I was, the disparity, the gap between the guys that want to do open class and the guys that can't get that big, that gap doesn't really exist in drug tested bodybuilding, in natural bodybuilding, whatever you want to call it. And I kind of poo-pooed the idea. I kind of put it aside and thought, no, it just doesn't belong. But just lately, I've thought about it an awful lot. And obviously the catalyst for this thinking is that we've just affiliated with the INBA and PNBA.
Yeah, and they do things a little differently.
Bodybuilding as one of their staples. And I've been thinking about it long and hard as to whether or not that belongs in our contest schedule here in the UK. And there are people who will compete in it. There are people who want it to happen. But will it, will putting it in water down other classes? Is there a need for it? Is there a gap in the market for it? And I've come to a very funny sort of point of view on it. And I'll throw that sort of out to the female side of the sport. We all know that there is a need for various different disciplines for female athletes.
Yeah, that's one of my. Yeah. Okay, I know you're going.
And that's something that we will go on to later on. But we know that there is a place for various disciplines which essentially cater for different levels of muscularity in the female side of the sport. And we do live in a world of equal opportunities and gender equality now. And should there be various levels offered for male competitors as well? And clearly the answer to that is yes, because we already have men's physique.
Mm-hmm.
We've already acknowledged that not everybody wants to be a bodybuilder, or not everybody can be a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
I believe that the solution to this, the answer to this question is kind of a hybrid answer. I do believe that there is a need for another division. What I would like to see, ideally, in a utopian world, is for men's physique and classic bodybuilding to kind of be morphed into one.
Okay.
Because the thing that I don't really buy into with men's physique, and I never have, and I've treated all of my men's physique athletes equally, and we've applied the criteria, we've judged them fairly, they've received the same opportunities that the athletes in the other disciplines have had. I've never treated any one discipline differently to any other in our contests. Every athlete is equal. But personally, for me, I've never understood the thing with the shorts covering the legs up. They're part of the body. They're part of the.
I get certain aspects of it. I used to think the same thing, like, oh, what is this shit? Like, oh, this is for guys who don't train legs,
but they do.
But in the same sense, again, the posing's very different. You need a different look. There's more of that who looks best on a magazine type feel to it. And I also started to, as I got older, imagine you're a bodybuilder, okay? And what's the first thing to go? The legs, the knees. Those are where the injuries are. Let's say you love training, okay, and you loved competing, and there's just that. That is the card you're dealt. And now it's like, okay, I can go on stage in bodybuilding and not be anything special anymore, or I can turn into something else, something different. Is it my favorite class? No, it's not. But I do like it from time to time. If you got the guy who's in there who really belongs in there, it's like, oh yeah, you're what we're looking for, as opposed to, again, a guy who's too muscled up and posing like a bodybuilder. It's like, no, you don't really belong here. But
Sure.
I get what you're saying with the classes. And with the females, when you're talking about the females, if you think about it, technically the females have more paths. Bikini, okay, but women's body. Bikini, figure, the fit body, or women's physique, femme fit, whatever you want to call it, and then bodybuilding. So you have 4 tiers there. Okay, with men, it's fucking men's physique and bodybuilding.
Sure.
You only got 2 paths there. So that's what started making me look at this, because my favorite class is fit body, women's fit, whatever you want to call it. That's my favorite class personally. That, and because of Shauna, I have that soft spot for bikini, but fit body for me is very exciting. And I look at it and I'm like, oh, well, that's like, is that bridge, that classic physique may be between bodybuilding and the men's physique. But I don't know how things are in the UK, but for you, do you, in the States, from what I gather, again, I don't have any internal records, but from what I gather at the shows, we have a real issue with men's bodybuilding. So if men's bodybuilding entries are plummeting, like, is there need for this other class?
Again, it's kind of like with the, I believe, and this could be another topic altogether. I'll try not to sort of go off on too much of a tangent, but I believe that the governing bodies within natural / drug-free bodybuilding are falling into a similar trap to what the IFBB fell into. I mean, they started placing freakishly huge mutants really high and put that division out of reach of everybody else. And I've harped on about this for a couple of years now. I believe in the natural shows, in the drug tested shows, there are some judging panels that won't look at you twice unless you've got striations on your glutes. Yeah, and I don't think that's a healthy place for a natural bodybuilder to be. Yeah. And we wear it like some badge of honor. Like, yeah, but the guy that's got and we are talking about men, so I'll say guy and not sort of be gender biased, but we're talking about men's divisions. But the guy with the striations in his glutes has worked so much harder.
Oh God!
It's not about who's worked harder; it's about who's got the best physique.
Yeah. I mean, if the striated glutes come and you have the muscle and the symmetry, then fine.
Sure.
But like, it's not a body fat contest.
No, it's not. But for some people, it is, and for some organisations, it is, and for some judging panels, it is.
Well, that's
the problem.
That's a problem. Yeah, the problem too.
That's the problem is we're selling the wrong product. As governing bodies, we're selling the wrong product to the athletes, and we're leaving. I have 19, 20-year-old kids competing for the first time as juniors with me, who pull out of shows because their glutes aren't hard enough.
Yeah, see, that's a problem.
And they've got this impossible kind of goal of, you know, some people are just not born to have striations in their glutes.
Yeah.
And I believe that's why men's bodybuilding numbers are plummeting, because people, I've known guys, and if anybody's watched any of the podcasts I've done where I've covered other topics similar to this vein, I've known guys literally have their bodies not function correctly for 8-9 months after a contest because they drove their body fat levels down so low at the expense of their physique. And that they've damaged essential bodily functions that, you know, don't need to be damaged.
Yeah. And may never recover in full.
Oh, and, you know, heaven forbid, you know, and I believe that we've branded our own extreme in bodybuilding, and it's the wrong extreme. I think that if the physique in itself were rewarded and condition were not rewarded as heavily in drug tested shows, I think men's bodybuilding numbers would rocket back up.
Well, we need it because they're here. Again, I don't know what's going on by you, but here, you know, it's rough. You know, you used to be able to fill these classes, like multiple weight classes. You know, you'd be able to give out the super pro qualifiers. You were given a pro card per class because the numbers were there. And now sometimes it turns into a thing where it's like, oh, you know, only this class gets the pro card because there's enough people in it. But because it's a super pro, we'll give out another pro card. So we're going to give it to first and or second place in the overall. It gets weird because now it's based on numbers, not just winning the class and the overall, because the numbers are down. So you got the numbers issue. And then, like we said, with the judging there, you know that I have issues with judging. With the judging, there's so many issues I feel that need to be addressed. And now this is another con for me. There's so many issues that need to be addressed with the classes we already have. You know, for you to throw in another one, it's just like I don't feel like the learning curve has caught up yet or like stabilized. Now it's like, here's another one. Here's something else. Here's another thing to you know, to think about. So that becomes you know, a little bit of again a concern, a con for me. Is that my dog barking?
Here's the one thing that became quite a pro for the class as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, I'm going to go pro.
Again, we refer back to our recent affiliation with the INBA. In the amateur ranks, and 95% of the focus of what we do in the UKDFBA is geared towards our amateur athletes.
Yes.
You were talking about, you know, the number of pro cards being given out in shows in the States, and that's another side tangent I could go off on. I believe that, you know, another reason there aren't many male bodybuilders left in the States is because they all turn pro the first time they compete.
I know.
You know,
listen, listen, I'm just, you know, don't hate the player, hate the game, that type of guy.
Oh, sure.
This is the system that I was put in, and everyone wants to say I won this. And it's like, hey, okay, so I did this too. I'm of the same reasoning, because then again, you take a person who probably maybe shouldn't have been gone pro. They get handed the pro card right away. Then they go into the pro ranks and they get pummeled. And now they don't want to come back for 5 years. Meanwhile, if they were an amateur, they would be trying more often.
They'd be filling the trophy cabinet. They'd be, you know, I had guys, some of our best pro bodybuilders in this country. You know, we're talking Mark Oakes, who's my vice president and head judge, 5 national titles before he turned pro.
Yeah, see,
Damian Lee's 3 national titles before he turned pro. You know,
so you guys are definitely more amateur, you know, amateur driven. So,
and I think it's important to be, because even turning pro doesn't make you a living in this sport, does it? You can win the biggest pro title in the sport and still win, you know, what, $5,000, $6,000, something like that.
I've seen it, you know, I've seen it.
Pro payouts are not worth winning for the money it costs you to be part of them.
Yeah.
So I think we breed our amateurs to stay amateur for longer and to offer them more as amateurs, the sponsored trips to compete abroad and things like that. And it's worth doing. It's worth staying amateur for. It's
So with
You know,
that change now to the INBA, right? It's
INBA.
INBA and it's the
Yeah.
pro rank is PNBA. Yes.
PNBA is the pro rank, but the INBA Europe is absolutely huge. We have a European Championship. We have a couple of Grand Prix shows here in Europe. You know, we have an Amateur World Championship every year in Europe. I think they have a Pro World Championship with it as well. But there are a lot of shows to compete in, and there are a lot of opportunities which, you know, require you to hop on a plane and do 2-3 hours travel instead of, you know, 10-12 hours travel, which is
really good.
hard.
Yeah.
So I would not rush anybody into the pro ranks. So I think that's another reason why our bodybuilding numbers are quite strong. But the big difference that I've noticed, though, going back to sort of my slight change of tack on classic physique, is that in the INBA, the men's bodybuilding divisions are divided by height and not weight.
Yeah, so that's a big variable.
That's a game changer.
Yeah, that's like OCB here. That threw me for
as well.
Yeah, that threw me for a loop. I'm so used to wait, and then boom, we would try other shows, and I'm like, oh shit, like that. Yeah, that's
so the Yorton. I've seen the Yorton Cup before, and don't they do that in a weight division, or is that heights too?
I'm not sure at that level. I just know it like the the regular amateur shows we've been to. In the very few we've done bodybuilding, it was height
classes.
Yeah.
Now we all know that guy who is, you know, for us, lightweight in the amateurs was 154 pounds.
Yeah.
Which is 70 kilograms in the metric system. Middleweight was 176, which is 80 kilos. You know, I know plenty of guys who are 5'9" and competing in the lightweights. Well, now they're the high end of the medium class, the medium height class. You know, I have a guy in this country who's competed with us as an amateur. He was a heavyweight before, so he was over 176. I think he was somewhere around about the 180, 182 pound mark.
Yeah.
If and when he decides to come back, he'll be in the short class.
Oh yeah, so this is a different
because
world.
The guy is 5'6.5". He's an ex-world champion powerlifter, and he's just got one of those huge, brutal physiques that's been built with years of powerlifting. So now we have that kind of different playing field that height classes have created. You know, that 5'9" guy that competes at 150 pounds, maybe they need classic physique.
Yeah. So there's a market then.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
We're not going to run it this year. We're going to see how things go.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, over here in the UK, and I always take everybody's height as well as their weight, depending on what, you know, regardless of what class they're competing in. Most of our lightweight guys who competed in our nationals last year would now be short class competitors. Most of the middleweight guys would be in the medium class, and most of the heavyweight guys would be in the tall class. But there are those one or two exceptions.
Yeah.
And and another thing I'm thinking is, you know, we do have that gap between men's physique and men's bodybuilding. Yep. What do the physique guys do? Because if they then get too big for physique, and there's another pet peeve of mine as a judge, you can be too big for men's physique.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, it's not a division for bodybuilders in shorts. So if you get a guy who's too big for men's physique, but not big enough to be a real successful open class bodybuilder, what do? Tell them to go away for 3-4 years.
Yeah. I got you. Because that's the thing too. Like that person who's in men's physique with a little bit more muscle, they may go on to get a pro card in bodybuilding. Getting the pro card and winning as a pro are two different things. So they can get that pro card, but get rocked all the time. Or if they had this other class, get the pro card and excel. That's
and you have to remember as well, when you compete as a pro, generally with any sanctioning body that you compete with, when you compete as a pro, your membership fee doubles.
Yes.
Your entry fee at least doubles.
Yes.
But the number of shows that you're able to do shrinks and goes down.
Oh,
so then maybe you've got to travel. Then you're on plane. You know, in the States especially, you're jumping on planes, you're staying in hotels. There's no driving a couple of hours in the car sometimes.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why pro bodybuilding can be unattractive for people, because oh, I've got this pro card, but now I have to spend a couple of $1,000 just to compete in a show where I'm going to come ninth.
Yeah, and those which I don't agree with and never will agree with, the mandatory you have to compete in order to retain your pro card. I just
I disagree that you have to compete.
That shit drives.
Pro
Once a
card.
pro, always a pro. Like you want to charge extra dues and you want to do funny stuff like that, then fine. But to strip people, yeah, no, that's that.
I don't agree with the fact that you have to pay for your pro card every year, regardless of whether you compete or not.
I'm not saying like that's my middle ground. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just my middle ground where it's just like all out. You could do whatever you want. You're a pro. You don't have to pay. You need to pay. That's my middle ground for just saying, I don't feel like you should ever take it away. If someone's out for 10 years, I do not think that you should be like, well, you owe us 10 years times membership. I think there should be like, okay, hey, you know, you pay yearly and then it's just like, okay, like, you know, if you missed a couple years, this is maybe the flat fee. There could be incentives like, hey, listen, here's the fee. We'll knock off this much if you come and test judge, if you come and help at the show and expedite. Like there are plenty of things to bring people more engaged into the sport than to just be like, hey, sorry, fucker, you need to start over. Or, hey, you know, you owe us $785 plus all the entry fees. Oh, plus this year's membership. Oh, plus you're flying. It's just like, oh, cool. Yeah, this sounds really real. This is really incentivized toward the athlete for something that's not going to generate money, even if they win at the pinnacle, which most will not. Most are not going to win at the pinnacle. Shit like that drives me crazy.
Well, but, I mean, even if you do win, you know, I bought a guy over. I have a pro show in the UK every year, and the men's overall winner of that pro show, I had 2 weight divisions. He won 1,000 UK pounds, which at the time was, with the exchange rate, about $1,350 American.
Okay.
And he used that money to fund his trip to a world championship. Won that world championship in their division and came away with $1,500 minus some tax. So actually came away with less for winning a world title than they came away with for winning a UK title. And if they hadn't won the UK title to raise the money to pay for their trip to the States to compete in the Worlds, the money that they won for winning the world title wouldn't have even covered the trip.
Yeah, so it would have been a loss.
So they'd have been making a loss, which is a pretty bad business decision if you're a professional at something. Whereas my entire amateur team that year had everything paid for, their flights, their hotels, their entry fees, their drug tests, everything. And all they had to do was bring money to buy food while they were there.
And go, show up, take care of business, and go home.
And yeah, have a great time. And I get that, you know, when the athletes are putting so much into an association and not getting that amount back out, you know, if we're talking $50,000 prize purses for winning major shows,
yeah, then fucking it's on then, you know. Like,
yeah, if we're talking NFL size contracts for people to be, you know, you are our athlete, you are our bodybuilder, you know, you must renew your membership every year because you're under contract and we're paying you this kind of money, then fine. But, you know, for somebody to tell you that you owe them $125 or $150 or $200 every year for the year that you want to sit on your ass watching the TV because you're taking a year off from competing, it just makes no sense. And
or maybe lower it, because again, if you take the other argument where if you consider it subscription based, you know, I still get charged for Netflix no matter if I use it or not.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So maybe there's a middle ground. The problem is the current structure makes no sense for really anybody, especially not for the athlete. So there should be something rethought here. I'm not saying I have the answers on the spot right now, but I can rattle off some things that you know would point things in a better direction. You know, there is no such thing as, or there's no auto pays. There's no, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, hey, give me money, or you know, they go to sign up and it's like, oh, well, hey, you know, you're overdue. There's no system in place. It makes it kind of messy. But I want to get back to some of the pros though, with our new class, because we're talking about
Yes.
we're talking about money now. Just because we're talking about money now, one of the pros I saw was yes, it will generate more money if you have more crossovers, more crossover fees, and you have that increased interest. Because for better or for worse, a lot of these people are, you know, what do they see on Instagram? What do they see in, you know, NPC, IFBB, and the Olympia? And they see this new class. Could it generate more revenue? More revenue, hopefully, makes it back to you know, the athletes and the athlete experience. You know, sometimes also too, if you're in a competition as an organization like we have here, there's a couple of different organizations. If you're competing for, you know, the same piece of the pie in terms of the competitors, and one organization's like, hey, we're offering this, you know, like you could miss out, or, you know, like you could say, okay, well, let them fall on their face. But if they're already trying, if someone else is already trying and they fail, if you failed with them, it's a wash. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. No one's going to be like, ha, you failed. It's like, dickhead, so did you.
Well, everybody failed.
Yeah. So, but sometimes it's rough because you got to watch what the competitors are doing. And certain organizations are offering that class and others are not.
See, again, there are two issues that have never really popped up in my head. The feeling, the thought of generating more revenue, very attractive. But I can honestly say that because money's not of any real interest to me in terms of running the sport, you know, I have a day job, I pay my bills elsewhere. I've never really tackled anything with the view of making more money from the shows. But you're right, it does make it back to the athletes, especially with the system that we've got. So that could be good.
Yeah.
There's nothing to say that we'll get any more competitors.
But you won't, but you won't know until you try, right?
Here, we'd probably bleed a few bodybuilders to it and bleed a few men's physique guys to it. The same number of competitors spread across the divisions.
But do you offer crossovers? Are you allowed to do 2 classes in one show?
We have a limited crossover sort of policy, and again, that will blend us into the next topic.
What's it? One jump.
For men, if you don't know if you fit in best with men's physique or bodybuilding, you can do both.
Okay, one jump.
But if you're a men's masters bodybuilding competitor, we don't let you compete in the open class as well.
Okay, so there's no crossovers that way. But what I mean by one jump, 2 jump is like with bikini. Is bikini allowed to do figure?
For the ladies, we let them jump 1 class.
Could a bikini competitor do fit body?
No.
Okay, so 1 jump. Gotcha.
Because you can't be both.
Yeah.
If you think you sit on the borderline between 2 classes, for us.
So are we transitioning now?
We can. Well, should we have a yay or nay on classic physique? Are we saying it's a good thing, bad thing, or are we 50-50?
I think that the circumstances should dictate. You're in a unique position because of the whole height class thing. But even speaking on my own behalf, being here in the system that I'm used to, I would say fuck it and try it. I'm always someone who's willing to try something. You know, I saw if classic physique was something that came and fizzled out, then fine. I would maybe give it a try, especially because I see other people trying it. You know, you don't want to be the hater on the sidelines, like, no. You know, like give it if someone already moved first, if it's a failure, then guess what? Everyone's a failure. So no one could be like, haha. So for me, I don't know. I was so like against it. I would say, fuck it, try it and see where the chips land. Give it a year. Look at the data. Look at, hey, did I bleed bodybuilders? What happened to my other classes? Did I get any new people? Did I get increased revenue? Did crossover fees go up? Did I attract competitors from rival organizations? Did it do anything? If it did nothing, I'm not going to complicate things, especially when it comes down to the shit that goes down at that judging table. I'd pull out after a year. I would give it a year. That's me. But who am I? I'm nobody. So,
well, I mean, I've got to say, I pretty much agree. I mean, I had the discussion with Mark Oakes, who I mentioned earlier. who's our head judge, and we kind of said, well, if anybody turns up in, with a good physique in reasonable shape, and they've got a shape like Frank Zane, Bob Paris, whatever, they're probably going to win in bodybuilding. They're probably going to do very well in bodybuilding, because those kind of physiques jump out from you on the stage, and they need to be rewarded. So we decided not to have it this year. We've changed enough stuff this year.
Yeah.
Fundamentally pretty big changes. We'll review that at the end of the year. We'll see how people feel about it, and how the bodybuilding divisions, the open divisions, have been affected by the height classes. And then we may bring it in. We may bring it in if it's something that benefits the athlete. That's my take on it now. I think I've gone from being dead opposed to it to now seeing that under some circumstances there is a place for it.
Gotcha.
In weight class dictated sanctioning bodies. So previously to this year, when we were running weight classes, no, I wouldn't have done classic bodybuilding. Absolutely not. But now, maybe yes. Maybe next year we'll see us discuss it and put it in place. And see
throw out feelers, do a survey, do it, see what people say.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely. So now the crossovers.
Here we go. Crossover. Because it drives me nuts when I hear people say things. I'm not saying what you just said, but when I hear, how can they be pro in multiple categories? How can they be pro in multiple categories? And my whole defense to that is, there are athletes who have a certain look, and they're not so aggressive in either way, that they have a certain look, that the posing, the presentation, if all that is on point, they can become dual class and sometimes tri-class pros, but that does not mean shit at the pro level. And I always take it back to Shauna. Shauna's pro in 3 categories.
Sure.
Bikini, figure, fit body. She's dominant in bikini.
Very.
Okay. If she did a pro figure show, she's not winning unless it's very, very watered down. I'm talking about good caliber. Yes, there's been plenty of shows pro figure that I could put Shauna in and have won. Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about at my standard of competitor, Shauna's not winning pro figure. Shauna's not winning pro fit body. No way.
Very much.
No way. Will she be in the mix here and there? Yeah, fine, maybe. But she's not beating Tracy Springer, Tracy Rabbit. She's not beating those people in fit body. She's not going to beat, the Heather Drake, Sophie Browns, Stephanie Kane's in figure. It's not happening. But will she be in the mix? Yeah. So I think that a lot of the argument has to come down to the separation of the idea of turning pro and then being a dominant athlete. Okay. But I'll let you go. I said my piece for now.
Well, again, at the amateur level, we encourage any of our, particularly our female competitors, because they're the competitors that don't know where they sit, because we have a lot of people competing cross borders here, in terms of they will go to an untested show and they will be a bikini competitor.
Yep. Yeah.
They will come to my contest, compete in bikini, but really they should be in physique. Well, it was fit body, now physique.
Yeah.
Possibly bodybuilding.
See, so
you need to have
the non-tested organizations send out a different message. And some people don't even realize that they're in a enhanced organization. They're just like, oh, I did this, and they said I'm too small. And I look at the photos and I'm like, what? You can't do bikini.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. Then you look into the federation. It's like, oh, I get it. You're unaware of.
But then I had a great bodybuilder going back 5 years now, a male bodybuilder, competing physique in one of my novice level contests, and he didn't place in the top 3. And everybody was like, why hasn't this guy placed in the top 3? He's got the best physique up there. But he was a bodybuilder, and he was in physique, and he was shredded, and he was big, and he was full. And he came to me to speak to me about it afterwards, and sort of ask for, I obviously realize that something's gone wrong here. What's gone wrong? And I said, well, what inspired you to compete in the men's physique division? And they said, Jeremy Buendia. Well,
Yeah,
Jeremy Bundy is bigger than our biggest bodybuilder.
yeah,
They're looking at the wrong subject matter to get educated on.
yeah.
We had a girl come to us last year who'd competed in non-tested shows before that, and came to us and competed in the division that they believe that they fitted into, because that's where they were before.
Yep. It
Was
doesn't correlate.
clearly way too muscular. Didn't place as high as they wanted to, but they realised what had happened, and they said that they were basically, the Easter Bunny in a Santa Claus contest.
Yeah.
Very, very good Easter Bunny.
Yeah.
One of the best Easter Bunnies we've ever had on stage. But you can't enter the Santa Claus contest. You've got to enter the Easter Bunny contest.
Yeah.
So
the crossovers, the crossovers help, because then I always tell someone, if you're unsure and you're on the fence, throw as many stones as possible and see where you kind of feel the best, do the best. I had a guy, Malcolm. He's a pro bodybuilder now. He won the overall at the Hercules. When he first came to me, he was an NPC guy, like a natural guy, an NPC, and that's what he's used to. He sees those bodybuilders and it's like, oh, I'm not bodybuilding. He comes to me and he's like, I'm like, whoa, this guy's gonna fucking win in bodybuilding. He insists on doing men's physique, and I don't know him at that point. I'm close with Malcolm now, where I could be like, yo, Malcolm, no, like, but I don't know this guy. So I'm like, sometimes you try to say your piece and they fight back, and it's just like, you are going to learn on your own. Yeah. Incredible physique, full, hard, striated, vascular, everything. They gave him like 5th place. He's like, coach, what happened? I'm like,
wrong division.
I told you. Switched over to bodybuilding, right to the top. Absolutely. So again, if he would have done the crossover, maybe we would have had a different thing here.
But then again, if they've researched the correct subject matter and taken a look at some other drug-tested bodybuilders, natural bodybuilders, then that problem wouldn't have existed either.
Sometimes it's hard to find that information. We say that because we're in it. Some people are just very unaware. Like there are so many bikini competitors in NPC who are natural and don't even know that there's a natural alternative for them to even try. And then when they come here, it's like some of you probably shouldn't even be bikini. So that's where you push, those crossovers. But then when you have athletes who go pro in multiple classes, you do have those people who are on the internet talking shit, where it's like, oh, well, there's a crisis in the criteria, because how could this be? It's like, it's all dependent on who shows up that day.
100%.
Yes, it all depends on who shows up that day. There are plenty of athletes who could present themselves. They're like, I call Shauna the chameleon. She can always kind of fit in anywhere she wants. There are physiques like that. And just because you're pro in multiple categories does not mean that you're going to go and win the pro shows. And I know by here, they have a rule where it's, in the pros, you can't cross over. And I think that stems back. I heard the story that years back, you'd have these dominant physiques that would go into the pro shows. Some of them are a little smaller, to do multiple categories. And because the physique is so great, it was hard not to hand out the win in both categories. And now they got both checks. That sends a little bit of even if the athlete deserves it on that day at that pro pinnacle level, I think that sends a little bit of a mixed message, where you'd have a pro athlete win pro bikini and then do pro figure on the same day. And it's a little
it's a little bit iffy. It is a little bit iffy.
And most of my athletes never won. Well, I had one athlete win a figure, and no, actually I had two athletes who won figure and fit body in the same show. That's the pro card, though. Again, it's all dependent on who showed up.
Yeah, and that's and again, that's where my system and the system that you're competing in amongst is probably different, because if we had a figure champion in our nationals, for example, who we didn't think would excel at pro level, then we just wouldn't offer them a pro card.
Yeah.
It's not a case of win the show, get a pro card. It's the pro card is offered if you are good enough to have one and use it wisely, competitively. A year may come when our overall men's bodybuilding winner doesn't get a pro card.
Gotcha.
It was a strong consideration last year because it was the pandemic year and everybody was training in the bedroom, and I didn't know how good people would be. So we went into the nationals last year
with
thinking,
that possibility.
We're not offering pro cards this year. But then 3 people popped up on that stage that were just too good to be denied.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Yeah. I saw the pictures.
You know, so I don't think, I think for the people that sort of spew the hate over over the pond in the US and say, how can you be a pro in multiple classes? I think we need to go back to the point I made earlier. It's pretty easy. Easy is a word that I really don't like to use, because to look good is not easy. To compete in a bodybuilding contest is not easy, but it's easier to win a pro card in the States. Some shows, all you have to do is turn up and you're a pro. You don't have to be a great women's physique competitor to win the pro card. You don't have to be a great female bodybuilder to win the pro card.
Yeah.
It's not given on the standard of your physique. It's given as a byproduct of your placing in a contest. So that's why people can have multiple pro cards, is because they're not competing to a standard. There isn't a benchmark that we put on people and say, once you are this good, you will be eligible for a pro card.
It's just if the numbers are in the class and you show up.
And I've always disagreed with it. And I was at a board meeting, years ago when I was over in the States. About it was when I was with the WNBF. I can still say WNBF and not get struck by lightning. So I'm gonna, when I was with the WNBF and we were talking about raising the minimum numbers in the class for pro eligibility from 5 to 8 or something like that. And my point all along was, who cares how many people are in the class? Shouldn't how good the winner of the class is dictate whether or not they turn pro or not?
Yeah, there are some times where some freak shows up and it's like, I want this person. Yeah, I want this person on a pro stage. I want this person at my world championships. And it's like, sorry, buddy, the only 3 other people showed up and you're going to have to try again. And you're going to have to fly all the way over there and hope that the numbers are there too. And then after that, you have to compete at a pro show just to even get to, yeah.
But what if there are 9 people in the division and all 9 of them are tomato cans? Yet the winner's good enough to turn pro just because he beat 8 other tomato cans.
I agree. No,
it has never made any sense to me.
The DFAC had that rule. When we did DFAC really hasn't done much in the States here, but when we did one of their shows and there was no numbers. It's more of like, if the numbers aren't there, the judges talk. So Shauna went pro in bikini. There's only 2 other people, but they looked and they were like, yeah, obvious. And and Tracy Springer did their, what's it called? Women's athletic, which is the fit body physique equivalent. You look at Tracy Springer on stage, there was no one. I don't even think she was up against it. Oh, maybe one person. You're not going to give Tracy Springer that, who then went on to win the world title with DFAC. Yeah. So it's like, I get that argument too, where it's like,
that is a progressive, sensible way of safeguarding your pro ranks and making sure the right people are joining the pro ranks, because it's better for your organization and it's also better for the athletes because you're not wasting anybody's time. We've all been to a world championship, and, amongst any sanctioning body, there are a lot of governing bodies who have a world championship with a pro lineup of 15 people in a lineup. Any class, let's be completely arbitrary about it, a world championship with 15 people in a lineup, 8 or 9 of them don't belong in the pro ranks.
Yep.
What's the point?
And that's the thing too. Like, thinking back, it's like Shauna loved fit body. She loved doing it. Guess what? She can't really do it anymore because she's a pro, which means she'd have to compete as a pro. Like if there was maybe that standard, again, not my place, but again, you'd put yourself in a situation where maybe Shauna could again do fit body at the amateur level, because maybe you get what I'm saying? Again, I am just a player in the game.
Yeah. I mean, And again, I mean, that could spark a whole nother debate, couldn't it? If you're a pro in one division, should you be competing as an amateur in another? You know, should you be? I don't know. I used to be heavily involved in martial arts, and I knew plenty of pro kickboxers that when MMA became a thing, they went back to being an amateur in MMA.
Yeah.
But they were a pro kickboxer.
Yeah, crossovers get dicey. Now, another question about crossovers with you said it's a one jump. Now, is that one jump in the show, or if someone is a bikini pro with you, they can never do fit body? Or are you talking about crossover within a show?
Within a show, within the amateurs, you know, in one contest, say for example, somebody wants to do bikini and figure, and they're clearly a physique competitor, then, you know, later on in the season they could do physique.
Okay.
You know,
oh, it's your limitation is within a show,
within one contest.
Okay.
And bearing in mind, we have a structure here currently where we have regional events. People qualify from those events to compete in the nationals, and then they compete at nationals. And the highest placing athletes from the nationals, usually the winners, are sponsored by us to compete in a world championship, a European championship, a bigger international show. We select a team and we sponsor that team. That's the structure we currently have in place. So if somebody, for example, were to compete in bikini and figure at a regional event, maybe win bikini, get second in figure, they would be invited to the nationals, but we make them choose their division for the nationals.
Okay.
You know, you choose one division at nationals.
So that'd be like kind of like the pro ranks here, though.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
You know, because we promote crossovers. I, as a coach, do. Like where I'm like, hey, listen, if you want to pay the fee and you want to find out, and money's not an issue, you want to, I don't know what it is anymore. It's risen over the years. Throw multiple stones. You know, you want to do figure, you know, figure and the fit body or physique equivalent. You still have the same 4 poses that you have to master. Figure,
pretty much,
and then you're adding the other stuff. I like to promote those things, but when it gets down to the pro ranks, it's like, hey, you got to choose your focus. If I have an athlete who has went pro in multiple categories and it's coming to the tail end of the season where you have the most important shows, which is definitely Monster Mash, and then off the worlds, it's like, hey, listen, I don't really care what you enjoy the most. Like your best chance is here.
You're focused as an athlete, yeah.
Yeah, you should be focused here. Do what you may with that information, but you should be focused here. Like, yes, you've pro figure. Wow, you just went pro in fit body. Hey, Triple Crown athlete. You belong at the higher level in bikini. And I feel like crossovers are a good thing, but coaches, promoters, owners have to do a little more work sometimes to kind of channel that athlete where it's like, hey, great job, but don't lose focus.
And that's kind of what we do here. You know, if I have like that athlete, for example, who qualifies for the nationals in bikini and figure, you know, they have to choose a class. And if they ask me for advice, you know, I'll happily tell those athletes, yeah, you place second in figure, but you're a bikini athlete. And the reason you place second in figure is because the quality of the division wasn't of the highest standard that we've had.
Exactly. You have to look at who shows up.
Yeah, your focus should be on bikini because that's where you're strongest. You know, I've had ladies, you know, compete in what was fit body, now physique with us, who you kind of look at them and say, you really need to hit the bodybuilding. You know, you're too much for this class. And, you know, there have been 2 occasions, in fact, where we've had a female athlete who's competed in what we used to call fit body, but now call physique. So that's sort of more muscular of the figure divisions. You got figure, then a more muscular figure division that's not quite as muscular as bodybuilding.
A little more conditioning.
Yeah. You could get away with a little bit more size than you would in figure. It's just the next step up the rung, isn't it? You know. And we've actually gone to that athlete backstage after they've finished that division and said, you know, the reason you didn't place where you want in this division is because you're just too damn big. You've got an incredible physique. We know that you haven't entered bodybuilding, but would you consider just jumping back on stage and doing bodybuilding?
So you definitely then do a good job in promoting that.
Well, on both of these occasions, most notably, both of these occasions, we didn't ask them to submit a further entry fee because it's never about money. It's, you know, it's about doing the right thing for the athlete. There was no entry fee. There was no come and do this class, but you got to pay us some more money. What? None of that. On both of these occasions, both of these female athletes ended the season being national champion in women's bodybuilding.
That's good.
So it was clearly
you get the right
call.
person in the right class due to the crossover.
Yeah.
And then in the end, it's a good look for the organization because you have someone where they need to be. And then that person feels better because they're where they need to be.
Because instead of going home, placing outside the top three and thinking those judges didn't like me, you know, we communicate back with them and say that, you know, the reason that you didn't place us high in this class is because you're just in the wrong, you're competing in the wrong criteria. And this is where you need to be. If they don't want to do it, they don't have to do it.
Yeah.
We don't force people to go and compete in women's bodybuilding if they don't want to do it. But on the two occasions when we've encouraged females to do that, like I say, they both ended up being the national champion.
That's good then.
You know, and so the call was obviously correct. You know, one of those athletes in particular was the national champion by a long margin. You know, the other lady had a tough battle, and any of the top three could have won the year that she won. But you know, last year we took a fit body competitor, as they were called then, and you know, I think she placed 4th or 5th in the amateur fit body, and we said, take off your shoes, jump back on stage, and you know,
hit the poses,
and she won by a long way. You know, she was a good bodybuilder, and it changed. It changed the outcome of her entire year. I've gone through the whole pandemic training to get in shape, and I didn't get what I wanted from it. To, wow, I learned something new about myself today. I happen to be a bodybuilder.
So takeaway message: crossovers are definitely a good thing. If it's policed and judged correctly, and expectations are managed, and right, just like with anything else.
I believe they're a good thing at the developmental amateur level.
I agree.
With the system we have here in the UK, no competitor should ever get to the point where they win a pro card in 2 different disciplines in 1 year.
Yeah. So we're different here. Again, I'm just a player in the game. So
of course, I get it in the States, things are very, very different. Yeah. But nobody should be good enough at any one class to win a pro card in the highest level of competition here in any one season. Somebody could be a pro bikini competitor, disappear for a couple of years, you know, add some size and come back and win figure nationals. That's conceivable. Gotcha. But I certainly think at the developmental level, so with the regional shows, the novices, the people that haven't been competing in the nationals before, crossovers are a great thing because it helps you to establish where you belong in the sport and where you're comfortable. If we didn't have crossovers, I could get somebody who'd driven a couple of 100 miles to compete in a show, not really get the attention from the judges that their physique warrants because they're in the wrong division. And instead of waiting 15, 20 minutes and going into the correct division and getting the rewards that they deserve, they've got to go home, you know, swallow that bitter pill that says they did something, you know, different to, you know, the optimal thing for them. And then they've got to drive another couple of 100 miles, pay another entry fee for another contest, and spend another day competing just to be in the right class.
Yeah.
So without crossovers, we have a problem for the athletes, don't we?
Yeah. All right. So you're judging CCN too, right?
Yes, absolutely. I saw the poster come up for the second Cyber Clash show. The first one was really, really enjoyable. I completely threw myself into it, regardless of any opposition I had for doing so, because I thought it was a great concept. A couple of our own athletes from here in the UK entered. One of our athletes, Claire,
yeah,
won the FemFit Physique. You know, and Rhiannon and Dan both placed top 3 in their divisions.
Dan, I put Dan on the poster.
Dan's on the poster. Dan Layton's on the poster. Yeah. So they're all 3 of those athletes were athletes that competed in our shows last year, and we threw it out to all of our athletes last year as, you know, this is another option for you to get some more competition time, and everybody that competed in it loved it. I enjoyed judging it. It was a very different judging process than the one that I've been used to for the last 25 years, but it was great. We embraced it. The software, the way it was laid out, the way that you presented it to us, was incredible. And
it will continue. It will continue to get better. It will continue to get better. I still got a lot of tricks up my sleeve. I got to slow and steady, but you know me, I'm always going to try to improve it, make it better, and make it easier for the judges, for myself, for the athletes. So I'm glad you're coming back for that. You got your big changes this year. You got your shows. In terms of your social media coordinates and where we can find stuff, where does everyone go? The website to check out the schedule, Facebook, where do you want people to go?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, big changes in terms of the worldwide sort of affiliations that the organisation has. But here in the UK, things are going to be pretty much the same, apart from changing bodybuilding to height classes. Like I said on a podcast I was on a few weeks ago, 95% of our members only compete here in the UK. They don't reach that level where we put them on a plane and take them somewhere else. So for our 95% of athletes, nothing changes at all here in the UK, apart from we get better every year, much the same as, you know, you do. But yeah, there are differences. There are new adventures to be had. There are new mountains to be climbed, and we're all looking forward to those. The website, www.drugfreebodybuilding.co.uk. That's under a little bit of reconstruction at the minute. That's being updated because it was old.
I like updates. I saw that. I looked at the website. I was wanting to see. I was like, let me check his schedule so I could see who I could try to sucker in for CCN. I was like, oh, a new website's coming. Oh, okay.
Yeah, new website's coming. The old one was, you know, it's been good to us for the last 10 years, but again, time to bring everything else up a notch.
Good.
Over the next year or so, hopefully the website will be a much slicker experience than it used to be. We're on Instagram at UKDFBA, Twitter, our handle is UKDFBA, and on Facebook, United Kingdom Drug Free Bodybuilding Association. I'm also on Facebook under my name, Lee Kemp. The profile that you will find on Facebook under Lee Kemp with mutual friends who are vaguely interested in bodybuilding is just for bodybuilding. So if anybody wants to add a friend request or shoot a message through, then they're not sort of intruding in my personal life in any way. My personal Facebook profile belongs in a different corner of the internet with a different name, which is, you know, linked but not assumed to what you see here. So yeah, lots of places to find us.
And I'll take all that stuff, and because I'm actually working on the new Tough Table website. I'm going to post this. I'm going to post this on probably YouTube, Vimeo, and Instagram. But when it makes it onto the new site, the new Tough Table LITE section, I'll post all of your links to all your stuff and the topic breakdowns, just like the old Tough Table site used to be. Yeah. So I'll take care of all that stuff for you. We're going to wrap this up. I think it's been great. Hit all the topics.
I've had a great time.
Hit all the topics. We went all over the place, came back. I like it. So
dug up about 10 more topics that we could discuss another day.
Right. Yeah. Definitely got to have you back for another one.
Well, it would always be a pleasure. You know, I love to talk about bodybuilding. I love the sport and I love to talk about it. If any listeners, by the way, just one last thing, if they want me to clarify or if they want to challenge or question any of the views I've expressed within this episode of Tough Table, then please don't cause Ryan a headache. You know where to get hold of me. Shoot me a message, and I will do what I can to answer any queries anybody has. unless they're really dumb queries, then I'll just press delete.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess the same thing here. Like anyone on on your end, we don't want to start another revolutionary war here.
No, we're long past that now. But yeah, and any athletes that are reading this, listening to this show, who are thinking about the cyber clash, commit to it. Get in. It's tried and tested. The first one proved that it's well worth doing. Unfortunately, I don't think there will be many athletes in the UK that come across to do it this time, because we just don't have contests on at the moment.
Yeah.
But
well, you will in the fall though.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, so that I was banking more on CCN3 being more of the bigger hit. I wanted to get in the habit of doing it twice a year, so I'm committed to that. I'm still looking to try to get as many people as I can, but I looked at your schedule. I was like, okay, they're more of a 3, which is fine.
Absolutely.
Which is
I
fine.
will be encouraging any of our athletes that want to do it to compete in the autumn in CCN3, because, like I say, that every athlete from the UK that competed in it this last autumn in the inaugural CCN had great things to say about it, and they all enjoyed their prize money checks as well.
Two UK athletes on the poster. Good setup. Yeah. All right, so that concludes Tough Table Light episode 1.